right, we're back. Episode 31 of the Feel for the Game podcast. We are going to talk about transfer wide receivers for the 2026 season. We've got a list of guys from 247's list once again. We are back with the worst list of all time. And there's really no order to these guys. I don't understand why they're listed the way that they are. So we'll go through them. We're going to talk about a couple things specifically. We're going to try to sort through who the impact players might be, who the explosive playmakers are. Those can go hand in hand. But 1,000-yard receivers, all-purpose players, overrated, underrated, and then did 247 get it right, which is usually not the case. So
Yeah, 247 just always botching these rankings, seems like.
yeah, it's a continual occurrence. It's been that way for years. So
And we're gonna mention it every week just because of how blatant it is. We've
yeah,
mentioned it on all these podcasts now, the quarterbacks, running backs, and the wide receivers.
yeah, I don't think it's going to change. I mean, I'm not super in depth with my ball knowledge on like players in the trenches, specifically on the O line. Like really size and starting reps in D1 football is how I make most of my transfer rankings on guys like that. Like I want to know who's good. I look and see who they played for, how many games they started, and how many sacks they allowed. Period. That's really it. With guys like this though, we've got a lot of proven production and we've seen what they can do in different offenses. So I think it's a lot easier to kind of break down what we can expect from them. So we'll go ahead and get into number one. We got Cam Coleman. I think everybody knows who Cam Coleman is at this point if you watch college football at all. He had 56 catches, 708, and 5 touchdowns last year for the Auburn Tigers, averaging 12.6 yards per catch. He stands at 6'3", 201, and he's heading to Texas this year. So I think obviously this is a great pickup for Texas. He probably could be the best receiver in this class, but I have a hard time imagining that he's a shoe-in 1,000-yard receiver. He hadn't been up to this point, and I don't think he's going to be dramatically better this year.
Yeah, and especially with the inconsistent play of Arch Manning, if that continues into next year, I mean, they really don't know where he'd be at.
Yeah, Texas's offensive line wasn't incredible at times last year. I'm sure they'll have some upgrades there, but I don't expect Cam Coleman to be like a Jeremiah Smith next year. I don't see that being the case. I'm sure he'll be an impact player though, and I would imagine that in big games, in important times, Arch Manning is going to go to him in the red zone specifically, or on third and long distances. He's the guy you're looking for. So I say impact player for sure. I wouldn't say that he's necessarily overrated or underrated here. Some people might have him overrated. Him being at the top of this list, I don't think is too far of a reach. So I feel good about that. 0.98 transfer ranking is pretty high. He was a 5-star coming in from high school, so he was a big deal player. I think it was him and Ryan Williams were like the highest rated receivers in that class. So he's proved to be the best too. Next, we got Isaiah Horton. He played for Alabama last year, had 42 catches for 511 and 8 touchdowns. Huge red zone guy. I see him as an impact player as well, predominantly in the red zone. He could have a lot of yards, but I don't see him being a like Kevin Concepcion or Mario Craver in A&M's offense next year, especially since Craver's coming back.
Was he at Colorado State prior to Alabama?
No, I think you're thinking of Torrey Horton. He played for Colorado State, but he was at
He was somewhere before Alabama, right?
he was at Miami for 2 years.
That's right.
Yeah, so he did 2 years at Miami. He actually did better at Miami the previous year before he came to Bama. But he's been consistent, kind of like a 5 to 700 yard guy, a couple touchdowns in the red zone. Like he's a big guy, 6'4", 208. He's really, really solid. A&M needed a big guy out wide. They're gonna have Craver back, and I think Bethel Roman will probably be back. They've got great receivers, but they needed a big X receiver on the perimeter. So I like Isaiah Horton. I say impact red zone guy, not expecting like huge explosive plays or necessarily anything close to 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
So I'd say probably a little overrated for me on this list. I think being number 2 is a little too high, but great receiver, probably an NFL guy at some point. Omarion Miller from Colorado is heading to Arizona State. They have him as a .95 transfer portal ranking. I really like Omarion Miller. I talked about him preseason last year for Colorado, and he ended up being really solid. He had 808, 45 receptions, 18 yards per catch. It's a lot. 8 touchdowns for Colorado. In a very average offense, they were not really solid this year. Very up and down at times. He's going to Arizona State with Cutter Boley and Kenny Dillingham. I think he could be really good. He's 6'2", 210, and big, fast, strong, good hands. I think he'll be pretty good. Arizona State really needed to replace some guys at receiver after Jordan Tyson left.
Yeah, and the fact that he was able to produce like this at the train wreck that Colorado was last year, all the quarterback issues, of course, the O line being terrible, just him putting up these numbers says a lot about him.
Yeah, I expect big things from him. He could be a 1,000 yard receiver. He's definitely not an all-purpose guy, but he's a number one receiver for me. So I think he falls into the category of probably close to 1,000 yards. I'd put some money on that if you could put a prop bet there. I'm excited to see what he does there. They're going to have another guy there who's right below him on this list, Reed Harris. It's a .94 on the transfer portal rankings. Had 40 catches for 669 and 5 touchdowns for the Boston College Eagles last year. He's 6'5", 217. Huge receiver. I definitely see this guy as a red zone threat, but he's proven down the field he can be dangerous. One-on-one, he's tough to guard. So I know a lot of people probably didn't watch Reed Harris for Boston College. I can admit I did not watch a lot of him last year because Boston College was like 2-10. But I expect some decent stuff from these Arizona State receivers. If Cutter Boley ends up being half as good as his potential could take him to be, Arizona State might be good again next year. People are sleeping on them.
Yeah, these are two really, really good pickups from him.
Absolutely. Losing Raleek Brown was a tough hit for them, but I have a feeling they'll have somebody step up at running back and having two receivers with Cutter Boley coming in. I don't expect them to skip much of a beat offensively. If anything, they may just shift more to a pass heavy offense. So we will see how that goes for them. But I like those two pickups. Next, we got JJ Buchanan. I'm going to be honest, had no idea who this guy was at all before this ranking. And he didn't necessarily have like smaller statistics this year. He only had 26 catches, but on that, he had 427 yards, 16 and a half yards per catch, and 5 touchdowns. Stands at 6'3", 225. So he's explosive. With the limited touches he got, he had some big plays. He goes to Michigan from Utah. I just don't feel good about receiver transitions to Michigan. They really haven't produced anybody other than Nico Collins and Roman Wilson in the past couple of years. So I don't know why you would choose Michigan as a transfer destination as wide receiver.
Whittingham went there. That's why.
Yeah, but that even still, I don't know that I would go there. I'd probably try to find somewhere else. Maybe he just has faith that I almost said Kenny Dillingham that Whittingham is going to change things offensively there. But I feel like Michigan's just one of those places where the culture doesn't allow for that change. The recruiting culture, like they're going to recruit the same kinds of guys there. I don't think that they're going to change the offensive game plan drastically there.
Yeah.
Lots of play action, lots of formation, single back, like you're running the ball.
Love the I formation.
Yeah, they're not running spread, you know. So I don't expect him to have a huge impact. He'll probably have some big plays, off of play action because he's fast and he's big. But I'd say similar output next year, maybe slightly increased target volume for JJ Buchanan. We'll sip of sparkling water. Kroger brand, it's fire. Sponsor this. It's on like $4 for a 12-pack. Can't beat that. Next, we got DeAndre Moore Jr. from Texas heading to Colorado. I like this guy a lot. I think that he was kind of undervalued at Texas. Highly profiled guy coming in to Austin as I think, true freshman. He was recruited straight to Texas. He's a .94 transfer portal ranking, 38 receptions, 532 yards, 14 yards per catch, 4 touchdowns. Average size, 6 foot, 192. I mean, he's done really good things there. But I don't know what quarterback play he's going to get from Colorado. I see this guy being probably a number 2 receiver because there's a guy going to Colorado who's probably going to be better than him. And he's not on this list. Spoiler alert, Danny Scudero was the leading receiver for the NCAA the entirety of college football last year. And he is not on this list. But his new teammate, DeAndre Moore, is like in the top 10. So I don't really understand that. But Danny Scudero is also going to be on that team. So I think he's going to hog a lot of those targets, if I had to guess.
There's one thing I want to check him for. I felt like he's the receiver that had that touchdown against State late.
Do you know he might have. There was DeAndre Moore and
oh wow, I feel like it was him that did that.
Wingo, Ryan Niblett, and there's a couple other guys. When we were watching that State game, in a parking garage in Nashville after the Vanderbilt, Missouri game. That was an epic experience. We talked about that enough. But we were watching the end of that game, and I've been telling Landon all day that State wasn't going to choke, and they choked very badly. Brandon Walker got a front row seat to the touchdown catch in the end zone that got overturned. Looked like it was going to be out of bounds, but they ended up calling it a touchdown.
There was another guy that had that.
What was that guy's name?
Emmett Mosley.
I think he's coming back from what I remember, or maybe he transferred. I think he transferred to Bama.
DeAndre Moore had 6 catches for 53 yards in that game.
I wonder where Mosley went because I do remember him. I think he's actually gone. Like Texas lost a lot of their receivers because they didn't have any guys show up to catch passes at their pro day. I don't know if you saw that. They had to have Michael Taft, their safety, go out and run routes for their quarterback. It's crazy. Absolutely ridiculous. They had all their guys transfer out or go to the draft, pretty much. So, unfortunate. But I like DeAndre Moore. I think he'll do some good things, but target share with Danny Scudero is going to be tough. Danny's a stud. So, Colorado has a bunch of good receivers. See what they do with them. All right, next we've got Daryl Gill Jr. from Syracuse, 0.94 transfer ranking. So he's pretty close with DeAndre Moore here, about the same rating. Yeah, they're the exact same. 33 catches, 507, 5 touchdowns on 15 plus yards per catch. He stands at 6'3", 190. He's heading to Ole Miss, so I'm excited about this pickup. I think he's going to be solid. He kind of gives me like probably wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 energy. I don't really see, from what I've watched of him, I don't see him stepping up being a number 1 guy. But with who we lost, we really didn't have a number 1 wide receiver last year. Stribling's gone. And we lost Winston Watkins and Caden Lee, so we need somebody to step up. We got a deep wide receiver room still, though. Lots of high school guys. Caleb Cunningham's still there. We got some undervalued guys stepping up. Dylan Alfred, Samari Reed are getting good playing time in camp. And Deuce Alexander, clear cut number 1 guy. Got a couple other players that are looking like they're going to be getting playing time. So I don't know where Daryl Gill fits into that, but he's an explosive guy. Syracuse really, really utilized him well this year with how poor their offense was. So I think they're probably going to miss him and Jonte Cook, who's also heading to Ole Miss from Syracuse. They have basically no depth left at that position. They got robbed in the portal.
I didn't watch a ton of Syracuse. I don't know a ton about this guy, but he is a receiver at Ole Miss now, so he'll probably find some success just because of that.
Yeah, most guys that transfer to Ole Miss receiver that have produced already on the college level seem to find their way on the field and do well. Like I remember Jordan Watkins came over, I think it's from Louisville, and he was just a continuous like 600-yard guy for us every season. Like he just found a way on the field, high volume, number 3 guy, and they got him to the NFL as a 3rd-round pick. So I see Daryl Gill kind of being like that kind of player. So I wouldn't say impact player, definitely not a 1,000-yard receiver, but it's a good pickup for Ole Miss. I like this one. Next, we've got Isaiah Canyon. Now, I honestly didn't even realize this guy played for Georgia Tech. I had no idea who he was. He wasn't a high volume guy for them, but he's going to Georgia. So flipped from Georgia Tech to Georgia. That's a pretty crazy transition. He had 33 catches, 480, and 4 touchdowns, 14.5 yards per catch, 6'4", 215. So he's a big dude. Him and Noah Thomas are going to be tough on the outside, I would have to imagine. Georgia's not a heavy passing offense, so he could be an impact guy for them. They're losing Zachariah Branch. They need somebody who can be consistent with big plays, but I haven't watched enough film on this guy to know if he's got serious speed or anything that really makes him stand out and would elevate him past where his ranking is. So I'd say it's probably a good pickup for Georgia, but I don't expect an extreme level of production from Canyon this year.
Yeah, flipping from Georgia Tech to Georgia is crazy though.
Yeah, that's a crazy play. There's a lot of guys like that this year, though. I mean, specifically for me, like seeing a lot of Ole Miss players go to LSU is weird. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about that. We had a lot of their players like the past 2 years, and it's kind of turned the tables on us this year.
Loyalty's dead.
Loyalty doesn't exist, man. It's all about the wallet. Next, we've got Eric Singleton Jr., an ex-Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket. He played for Auburn last year, had 72 total touches, 595 total yards, and 3 touchdowns on 8.5 yards per touch. All-purpose guy, strikes me as probably one of the best athletes in college football. just really has not gotten the volume of touches he needs. In
I'm
my
really
opinion.
surprised he only had 3 touchdowns last year.
Auburn's offense was just so up and down. It just made no sense. The way he was getting his touches in some games, and then the next he just wouldn't get any.
No.
It was terrible. Auburn used him very poorly, and he still produced well. I expect him to be a lot better for the Florida Gators this year. John Summerall will get him the ball. They absolutely need to thrive off of him in the passing game down the field. Short intermediate, he was a beast for Georgia Tech. They were always giving him under routes and drags and zigs. Like that's where he thrives. But every now and then, over the top, he's got lethal speed, jet sweeps, touch passes. He can do it all. He can even return kicks. So I expect Florida to make sure he gets the ball. Stands at 5'10", 180, so a little slight of frame, but he's got some quick twitch to him. So I think he's gonna be really good. He has a chance to be an 1,000-yard total guy. I don't know if he'll be receiving, but given that he can run the ball and receive, I think he probably could be a 1,000 total yard guy.
Yeah, he's a breakout candidate in my opinion.
100% buried on this list for sure. Highly touted out of the portal last year. I think he was like the second rated guy in the portal last year or something. I don't even know. He was high, very high. Next, we got Nick Marsh from Michigan State heading to Indiana. This one scares me a lot.
Here's an ad like we were talking about or something. What is this?
This is basketball. Yeah, we were talking about this before.
This is just something live. I guess we're just gonna have to keep this up.
Yeah, you guys get to watch another live feed
Yeah.
if you're watching our podcast. Super distracting, but we're talking about Nick Marsh. So Nick Marsh had 62 catches, 673, and 6 touchdowns for the Spartans last year. Standard 6'3", 203. Big receiver, really, really strong. At one-on-one, he's winning probably almost every time.
Yeah.
He's really good. Had a terrible offense, tough quarterback play at Michigan State. I think Josh Hoover and Indiana are going to feed this guy. I think he's 1,000-yard receiver. Between him and Charlie Becker, I seriously think they're going to be tough to stop on the outside.
Yeah, I'm really excited to actually see this dude play for a competent team.
Yeah, it's a good thing that he ended up going there. I think Kurt Cignetti's going to get him right, and they're going to get him the football. So I say 1,000-yard plus guy for sure. He's a number one wide receiver. Charlie Becker's great. He's a solid number two in my opinion. So I think that we're going to see a lot of Nick Marsh this year, early on for sure. Next, we got Terrell Anderson, wide receiver from NC State, 39 catches, 629, 5 touchdowns on 16 yards per catch. He stands at 6'2", 192. I have not watched a lot of Terrell Anderson, to be quite honest with you. I think that he'll probably be able to produce as far as the down the field passing game. He's a 16-yard per catch guy, so that's pretty explosive. I think he's probably just an explosive playmaker for USC next year. That's where he's heading. I don't know enough about him to assume that he might be a 1,000-yard guy. USC's got a lot of good receivers. They've lost a lot of good receivers in Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. So I don't know where he fits in on that offense, but they'll throw for a lot of yards with Jaden Mayaba back this year. So he can end up being a key piece in the down the field passing game.
So the list ran out on here.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Now we're down to most recent updates. Justin Flo is in the portal again.
Yeah, he just withdrew his name. He was gonna go somewhere, and he actually withdrew his name. So I think that's what the update's for.
Not surprised that nobody wanted him.
Yeah, he's been all over the map, man. Yeah, see if you can get it back to position.
I don't know that I can do anything because it just ends.
Like that's terrible.
Just more 247 being a great site here.
I don't think this website's changed in years. Like
It's never looked any different from when I've used it ever.
yeah, that's awful.
I don't know what we can do. There's nothing else that says like load more.
Honestly, just leave it on the top 10 total rankings or something. It doesn't really matter. We've got all the stats and stuff right here, so I'll just keep going on with what I got. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to see it, but let's go ahead and talk about Terrell Anderson a little bit more. I don't have much else to say, but I think that I think USC needs to backfill at the receiver position, so I think it'll probably be similar volume that he had last year at NC State. He could be a solid player. Probably going to be more explosive, though. So I'd say under 1,000 yards for Terrell Anderson. Next, we got Quincy Porter. This is one of the guys on the list that I'm not really sure why he's where he's at. He's low enough to where it's not crazy, but he only had 4 catches for 59 yards last year, no touchdowns. I think he was a 5-star. Went to Ohio State, committed to Notre Dame. I think they also had another guy from Ohio State who was a 5-star that went to Notre Dame. It's like Jerome Miles, maybe, or something. But Notre Dame got a couple guys from Ohio State that just couldn't see the field. I don't think that was a them problem. I think it's just Ohio State's receivers were so good. Sitting behind Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, and Jeremiah Smith is tough.
And he was a true freshman last year.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame's going to get him on the field. So I don't know where he fits in offensively, to be honest with you, because I haven't seen him play. But I expect him to probably get on the field. Notre Dame really doesn't historically recruit high profile receivers, so this is a good pickup for them. I think he'll probably be solid, but we haven't seen a lot of him yet. So I think a lot to be proven. He could be underrated, possibly. I don't know enough yet to say that, but that's probably the best tag I can think of to put on him right now.
I mean, he wasn't a 5-star for no reason, so
Yeah,
should be a solid piece.
I guess we'll find out why this year with Notre Dame. Be an interesting guy to watch. So next we got Eugene Wilson III, wide receiver from Florida, heading to LSU. He's a .93 in the transfer portal rankings. 30 receptions, 251, and 3 touchdowns for the Gators last year. 5'10", 194.
Ugh.
I've been watching this guy for a couple of years now. I always thought he was good. And it pains me to see him go to LSU, but underperforming this year. I think he dealt with some injuries. I was going to say LSU. Florida's offense was rough. It was not good. So I don't know what potential he has left to tap into, but I expect probably better play from him this year. LSU is so loaded at receiver though. Like they've got so many players between Jackson Harris. They got I don't know if it's Trey Brown. Whoever they got from Old Dominion was really good. They got Jace Brown from Kansas State. I mean, they've got a ton of guys. So I don't know where he fits in there, but he's got talent. I think he'll make impact plays. So I'll have him as an impact player for LSU, but there's really no telling where he fits in.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some really good receivers on LSU that end up like not putting up much on the stat sheet this year, just with the depth.
Yeah, the depth is going to be a problem for them. I also think that if we're being honest, we don't know what Sam Levin's injury status looks like and what he's going to look like in that offense. There's a lot of learning curve from playing like he did at Arizona State to playing like he is going to need to play in Lane Kiffin's offense. The expectations are higher. The offensive line play is skeptical. His injury status currently is also skeptical. So we will have to watch the LSU wide receivers. There's a lot of talent there, but a lot of that stuff has to come together for that to work out. So I'd say yet to be determined, but most likely more of an impact guy. Situationally, he's a really good receiver.
Something to note too, we said the same thing last year because like there were so many talented guys in there, and then they ended up not doing anything really.
Yeah, and all those guys are going to the draft this year. I mean, you got Barryon Brown and Xavier Thomas. Like they're all leaving. Like they honestly were kind of overrated on their speed. None of them were sub 4.35 guys. They were all a little overinflated on the speed. They didn't really produce a lot at LSU. They had some big plays, but never really showed up on the lights with the brightest. So who knows? Lane Kiffin's there. Everything's changing. So I don't expect it to be the exact same, but I feel something like something's up with LSU, and I don't know if it means they're going to be a 2019 team or if they're really overinflated because of all the drama. So we will see. They've got a lot of other guys that we're going to be talking about. Another guy on this list as well. We'll move on to Keyshawn Brown from Duke. He is headed to Virginia Tech. This guy was really explosive for Duke last year. 66 catches, 833, and 5 touchdowns, 12.6 yards per catch. He stands at 5'8", 165. So really undersized guy, really quick. He's going to Virginia Tech, reloaded team, new coach, new quarterback. I don't know what he's going to do there, but I would have to imagine that they're going to need some serious production out of him. I don't know if 1,000 yards is realistic in that new of an offense, especially a James Franklin offense, but I think he'll be a good key player for them. So I say impact player for the Hokies with Keyshawn Brown.
Yeah, I'm reading up on him. His height and weight is the exact same as mine, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, so Landon's not necessarily a small guy,
Exact
but
same build.
I mean that's definitely not regular college stats for a wide receiver. So you got to be running a sub 4.4 if you're going to be 5'8" playing college football, or just be like not Danny Scudero, Jacob DeJesus. I can't even describe the way that guy plays. Like he probably runs a 4.6 or a 4.7, but he's a stud. Hope he gets an extra year of eligibility. You got to be quick at that height at least. So I think he'll be a solid player. Duke absolutely is going to miss this guy. They're losing a ton. Losing Cooper Barkate, and you're losing Keyshawn Brown, and you're losing Darian Mensa. You just got your whole team rocked. That's a tough one. I don't know why he's higher on this list than Cooper Barkate. We'll get to him in a second, but that does not make any sense to me.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him with the Hokies and just them as a team overall this year, definitely.
They remind me of kind of like Oklahoma State. Like they got some key players, but not as high profile as Oklahoma State. They reloaded a lot. New coach, new coaching staff, new players. No telling what the Hokies will look like this year. No more Kyron Jones, so they'll actually be able to throw the football.
Freedom.
Yeah, freedom from the worst passing offense I've seen to date, other than maybe Army. Let's move on to Trey Richardson. This is one of the most undervalued guys on this list. He comes from Vanderbilt and is heading to Louisville. Ole Miss plays Louisville in week 1, so I know that Pete Golding's probably got his eye on this guy specifically. He's really solid. He's going to be paired up with Lincoln Kineholz, a quarterback for Louisville. He had 57 catches, 868, and 7 touchdowns for Vandy last year behind Diego Pavia. He was their best receiver by far. Lots of big plays, down the field threat, 15 yards per catch. Like that's a really solid receiver. I think he has 1,000-yard receiving potential. He's only logged 1 season of college football, and he's heading into his senior year. Last year was his junior year. I don't know if he was a junior college guy.
He was.
But he is absolutely undervalued. Way too far down on this list. I'd have him in my top 10 transfer receivers easily. So I expect him to be an impact player for Louisville, possibly a 1,000-yard receiver as well.
Yeah, I expect a lot of production too. I mean, this is a guy coming from junior college, had to really work his way where he's at right now. I think he'll have a great year.
Yeah, with Chris Bell exiting at Louisville, that leaves a big gap for production. Chris Bell was one of the best receivers in college football. Dealt with some injuries, but Louisville's going to need him to step up. So I expect a lot out of Trey Richardson. Vanderbilt's going to miss him a lot. That one sucked. Next, we got Chase Hendricks from Ohio. Now, I did not watch a lot of Chase Hendricks, but I got to see Parker Navarro in a couple of games, so I got to watch him play a little bit. But he had over 1,000 yards. He's one of the only guys on this list with 1,000 yards. And he's way down here because he played for Ohio. 7 touchdowns, 72 catches, 1,038 yards, almost 15 yards per catch. He's heading to Cal. It's a good pickup for Cal. I like that with Jaron Sagapalute. I think they really need to be able to dish it out throwing the ball. They might lose Jacob DeJesus. If they do, Chase Hendricks is going to need to step up because DeJesus was like a 99 catch guy. He was getting like 12 targets a game. So they really need Hendricks to be that kind of guy if they can't get DeJesus back. So I'd say probably an impact player for Cal. Very underrated player. From what I saw, he's pretty explosive, reliable, number 1 guy. So he's solid 6 foot, 203 build. So stereotypical number 1 receiver. I expect probably at least 800 plus yards from him.
I have to agree.
Probably a solid target share even with DeJesus back. We'll see if he gets the appeal. Next on the list, we got Wyatt Young. He is headed to OSU from North Texas. This is one of my favorite guys on the list. He's so undervalued. He had 1,264 yards and 10 touchdowns, 18 yards per catch, 70 receptions in North Texas behind Drew Mestemaker. He goes with his head coach, quarterback, and running back, and a lot of other teammates and some coaching staff as well to Oklahoma State. This could be one of the most overhauled football teams we've ever seen. Like probably one of the biggest jumps a team could possibly make. This kind of roster update. I don't know about the defense, very subjective, but it is the Big 12. So I expect a lot from Wyatt Young. I think easy impact player, 1,000-plus yard receiver, should not be this far down on the list.
Yeah, I mean, with North Texas last year, all you would hear about was Mestemaker and Hawkins, but this is a guy that put up some great numbers and will continue to produce at Oklahoma State, I expect.
Yeah, I think he's being very slept on, and his .93 rating isn't terrible for transfer portal, but as far as who's ahead of him, you got a guy who had 64 total career yards ahead of him. I just don't understand how it stacks up against 1,200 receiving yards in 1 season. So make it make sense. 247. You can't even load more of your pages for us, and you also have terrible rankings. So lots of dunking on 247 today. Let's move on to Trell Harris, wide receiver for Oklahoma, leaving the Virginia Cavaliers to see if he can produce at an even higher level. He had 59 catches for 847 and 5 touchdowns for the Cavaliers last year. He's 6 foot 200, very solid number 1 receiver in my opinion. I think Oklahoma's going to need him to step up in a big way. They lose Deion Burks, but they do have Isaiah Centegna coming back. Between these two guys, if John Mateer can't like seriously get his act together, they're wasting talent in that position. 2 really, really solid number 1 type receiver guys in the same offense with an elite possible quarterback. Brett Venables has to get that straightened out. They have to produce at that position. They've got what they need. There's no excuse in my eyes on what they should be able to do passing the ball this year.
This guy coming out of high school was a 79 rated 2-star that went to Kent State,
That's
and
crazy.
now he's at Oklahoma.
He spent 2 seasons at Kent State.
I think so.
Well, he was solid last year for Virginia. I fully expect him to be an impact player for Oklahoma. I don't know if he'll be a 1,000 yard guy, splitting reps with Isaiah Centegna as a probably one or two receiver, but he's good, man. I really like this pull for Oklahoma. Way too low on the list.
What a come up for this guy.
Yeah, I love seeing that, man. And unfortunately, one of the first people that comes to mind for me is Justin Jefferson. He was like a 2 star, ended up being one of the best receivers in the NFL for the past couple of years. So we'll see if Charles Harris can have that kind of career. I do like seeing that. It's always great to know that the recruiting rankings aren't the gospel. So love to see that. Next, we got Marquise Johnson, wide receiver for Mississippi State from Missouri. It's a big pickup for the Bulldogs. He had 28 catches for 340 and 2 touchdowns. I think he's a little undervalued. He didn't have a huge target share at Missouri, given that their offense was up and down with injuries at quarterback. I've gotten to watch him play. I think he's solid, man. Missouri's produced good wide receivers in the past, and I think Mississippi State's been developing really good receivers. Guys that are underrated or underdeveloped have been coming to Mississippi State and producing at a high level. So I expect a lot from him this year. I think backfilling for Brennan Thompson, he could be one of the better receivers in the SEC next year, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, this is our Brennan Thompson replacement. Big speed guy here. It'd be a lot to ask for him to produce to the level that Brennan Thompson did, but I'm excited about this dude. I expect him to be pretty good.
I think between him and Anthony Evans, State's going to have two solid receivers to go to next year. With Mario Taylor back at the helm, I think their offense is going to be really exciting. I know you're pumped about it, but I think a lot of Ole Miss fans need to pump the brakes on the running it up in the Egg Bowl again. It's probably going to be a close game, if I had to guess. Teams are shaping out to be pretty interesting for both squads.
Yeah, we're due with nail biter in the Egg Bowl for sure.
Y'all are due for a upset win in the Egg Bowl, so I'm definitely going to be watching that. I said that last year. I'll say it again. So I really like that pickup for the Bulldogs, so we'll be watching him. I don't know if he's going to be able to backfill perfectly for Brennan Thompson, but really, really solid get there. Cooper Markay, Duke wide receiver, heading to Miami. I think this is one of the best pickups in the entire transfer portal. He was from Harvard last year and very underrated. Goes to Duke and puts up 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns on 72 catches. Over 15 yards per catch, stands at 6'1", 195. This guy literally looks like Cooper Kupp. I know he's white, so it sounds like I'm just copy pasting, but watching him play, very similar play style. He's a route artist, but I think he might be faster than Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp was not a fast guy, still is not. I think Cooper's faster. Darian Mensah and him were an elite duo at Duke. I think it's going to translate to Miami.
For sure.
I've been watching Miami piece together this roster over the offseason. I think they might be better than they were last year. I know their edge rushers aren't going to be the same, but holistically, you've got a better quarterback. You've got the same running backs. You've got Malachi Tony. You've got Cooper Barkate. They've got other receivers on the transfer portal that we haven't gotten to yet. And they've got returning guys from last year at receiver that they still have that were good. The offensive line loses a couple guys, but they definitely recruited well and in the transfer portal. Their defense is going to have good guys. They recruit well. I just don't know that they'll be worse. I think they're going to be better.
Offensively, they'll be better for sure.
And to be honest with you, I mean, I know that saying that they could be better is assuming by record standpoint that they'll either be in the national championship or win it. That's not what I'm saying. I think production wise, they'll be blowing teams out that they should beat. I don't think this is a team that is going to go in and have dogfights with Florida State. I think they're going to be blowing out teams that are sub 500 in the ACC. So I like what Miami's doing. They're going to be a team to watch. A lot of people were high on them heading into last year, and they ended up performing late down the stretch. I think people are going to sleep on their potential this year after what they've done and what they're rebuilding now, and I think it's time to get on the Miami hype train. Next, we got Vandravius Jacobs, and he's also heading to Miami. Explosive wide receiver for South Carolina last year. He had 32 catches for 548 and 4 touchdowns, 17 yards per catch. 6 foot, 195. You add this guy's another depth piece to the wide receiver core in Miami. You got Malachi Tony and Cooper Barkate, two of the best wide receivers in all of college football. Then you've got Vandravius Jacobs, one of the most explosive guys in the SEC last year. And then you've got like 3 or 4 other guys that I can't even name off the top of my head. They're also really good. So Miami is loaded at wide receiver. One of the best units in all of college football. I expect him to be an explosive guy. I wouldn't say impact player because he's buried on the depth chart, but definitely explosive playmaker. I didn't say this about Cooper Barkate, but I think he'll probably be an impact player, has a chance to be an 1,000-yard receiver. So really, really solid stuff for Miami. They're loading at that position. Next, we got Parker Livingstone from Texas. He's heading to rival Oklahoma. I love this kid. I think this is a great one. So Parker Livingstone had 29 catches last year, so not a lot, but he put up 516 and 17 yards per catch, 6 touchdowns. Stands at 6'4", 191. Explosive playmaker, red zone threat. Texas just let him walk. They basically told him like, "Hey, we don't have the roster spot for you that we had for you last year. Make something else happen. We're not signing you to an NIL deal." And he was like, "Okay, I'm out of here." And he dipped out of there and went straight to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, just a big slap in the face to Texas for that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a big slap in the face to Parker. I mean, he was
Yeah.
one of the best players on the team last year, and they were like, "Yeah, we don't want you back." You don't hear that very often on top producing players, but they basically told him to leave. So I hope he absolutely cooks Texas this year. I think that would be awesome. I think Oklahoma's got to be really happy about that. He's a solid number 3 option with Santagna and Troll Harris. He'll fit right in. Really solid receiver room for Oklahoma this year. Very slept on unit. I think probably solid number 3. I wouldn't say impact player necessarily, more explosive guy, maybe red zone threat. Moving on, we got Unique Smith from ECU. He had 44 catches, 583, and 5 touchdowns for the Pirates last year. I don't know exactly what kind of player he could be at SMU next year. But that's a high flying offense. With Kevin Jennings back there, they need a deep threat. And Unique Smith has been a red zone guy / deep threat for ECU. He's big, 6'3", 207. I like it. It's a good pickup. I think he could be undervalued. I've gotten to watch him a little bit. He's got good hands. He can break off big plays. At his size, this is my prototypical like NFL wide receiver build. That's like getting eerily close to AJ Brown, DK Metcalf like statistics. With you being like productive at a 6'3", 210 plus pound like size, you're a tough guy to guard because you're not too lanky, to where you can't get away from guys, but you're also not small enough to where you're going to get bullied off the line. You're pushing people off the line and running past them. You're tough to guard. So I like Unique Smith. I think he could be an undervalued player for sure.
This guy was a 4-star that went to East Carolina. Rare you see those type of guys go G5.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, he produced. So I think he's a proven commodity at this point. Any guy that's got over 500 yards and is in the portal is proven that they can play at a high level. Even if they're playing at a FCS school, like if you can get open and get over 500 yards in an offense, like you've proven that you can make separation happen as a wide receiver. So it really doesn't matter what level you're playing at. DB play until you get to the NFL is not sparsely different. Every now and then you'll come across some freak guys, but I would say FCS to Division One, like as long as you can get separation as a wide receiver, you've proven enough. You can get a chance somewhere and do good things. So Unique Smith going to SMU, I think it's a good pickup. I like that one. Next, we got Jace Brown, wide receiver from Kansas State, heading to LSU. I think this is probably one of the better gets in the portal. Now, I don't know where he's going to fit into the offense necessarily because they've got so many similar players, but Jace Brown's a speed demon. He was elite for Kansas State. He would take jet sweeps to the house, bomb like sluggos to the house. Like Avery Johnson was a mid quarterback at best, and he was going for over 800 yards in that offense. Found a lot of big plays. Only on 48 touches, he had 17 yards per touch. So I think LSU is going to find a way to get in the football. If they don't, I don't know what Lane Kiffin is thinking, but I don't know that Lane Kiffin's had a guy with this kind of skill set yet in his offense. Like Elijah Moore is probably the only guy I can think of with this kind of quick twitch that he had. So I expect a lot from Jace Brown. If I was in an offense and I was either a quarterback or a supporting cast member, like I'm thinking this is the guy that I want to get the ball to in important situations. So I would hope that Sam Levitt would feel the same way. If I was the quarterback for LSU, this is a guy I would be going to. So I would have to imagine he'll be an impact player for LSU. I don't know if he's gonna be 1,000 yards with how loaded their room is, but he's gonna be solid.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for any guy in that room to get 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I see most Lane Kiffin offenses up to this point have not had 1,000 yard receivers, and if they have, barely eclipsed it. They have a lot of guys. They spread the wealth, and they have different skill sets, and they rotate. So Chase Brown will get his touches. He's just got to prove that he can do what he can with them. So I would imagine he'll be one of the better receivers in the SEC next year, at least as far as skill goes. Next, we've got Ian Strong from Rutgers. Rutgers has been putting out some decent talent at skill positions lately, despite the low success of the program. They send Ian Strong to Cal. Another good pickup for Cal. He had 52 catches for 762 and 5 touchdowns. Stands at 6'3", 211. Love the size. Love the production. Almost 15 yards per catch. It's a good pickup for Cal. They've loaded up at wide receiver.
This dude was originally recruited as a safety.
I did not know that. That's interesting. That height would be a crazy safety. I would imagine he's pretty fast. So with that size and speed and his production he's already had at Rutgers in a tough conference defensively to play against, I'd say he's probably a sleeper candidate to have 1,000 yard season. I mean, we already talked about some other guys that Cal's got, and they've got some good ones. But if DeJesus doesn't come back, he could be right there at the top of the receiver list on the roster. He could be pushing to be the number one guy. So I would have to imagine Ian Strong will be an impact player for California for sure. Really, really solid player for Rutgers last year. Next, we got Braden Pegan from Utah State. He is headed to Utah, and he'll be replacing was it the Buchanan kid, JJ Buchanan, that's headed to Michigan. Pegan was one of the top performing guys on this list. He had 64 catches for 937 and 6 touchdowns, 14.6 yards per catch. He also stands at 6'3", 210. It's a solid size, lots of proven production in a average Utah State offense. Utah absolutely needs wide receiver help. So I think that is Devin Dampier coming back next year? Do we know?
I believe so.
He's going to need help. Whoever's quarterback for Utah is going to need help. They've lost a lot of players given that their head coach left in Michigan. So I think it's a good pickup for Utah. I don't know with their passing offensive style if he's going to get near as many touches or yards, but I'd say impact player for Utah, probably not going to be a 1,000 yard guy.
Do you remember who they hired?
I think there was some guy in house maybe. They might have promoted a guy. What?
I apologize for the sneezing. Pollen is still just going nuts.
It's been bad.
It was terrible.
I go fishing every weekend, and sometimes during the week, and my eyes are red and itchy all the time. It's awful. Yeah, I think Braden Pegan will probably be solid for Utah. He's gonna be a go-to guy for sure, but I don't see a 1,000 yard receiving season for him. I'd say probably just impact player. This is a sad one for me because I really like this guy. Caden Lee is leaving Ole Miss. He's heading to the Missouri Tigers. He played for Ole Miss for like 2 or 3 years, I think. He had 44 receptions for 635 and 3 touchdowns last year for Ole Miss. He's been a go-to guy in clutch situations. Sure-handed, does not drop the football. I love this guy. He was such a good receiver for us. It's a shame that he left. I think he followed Austin Simmons to Missouri. He looks to be probably one of the top receivers on the team. So I would have to imagine he has 1,000 yard potential. I see him as a high target share, maybe lower yard per catch guy. He's a possession receiver. He's got speed, but he's going to catch just about everything you throw at him. A lot of slants, a lot of screens, a lot of out routes, a lot of short stuff. He can be a down the field guy, but he's more of a possession receiver. Undersized. He says 5'11", 180. I met this guy in person. He's maybe 5'9", maybe 5'10", probably 160 pounds soaking wet. So not a big player, but he's really solid. I would have to imagine that he'll be really good for Missouri if they can get their quarterback situation figured out. We talked about that already. I'm not a hater, but I just don't really believe that Austin Simmons is the answer for the Tigers.
Yeah, I mean that's the big question mark, really, with how much Cade Lee is going to end up producing.
He already got announced as the starter. It only took like a couple of weeks after he got there to be announced as a starter.
That's a red flag.
Yeah, and to Missouri fans are probably thinking, oh, well, he's even better than we could have possibly imagined. I don't know. I'm not going to rule out the fact that he could end up having a freaking Drew Lock season at Missouri and end up being one of the best quarterbacks they've ever had. It's possible, but I don't think it's going to happen. I've watched him with turnovers. I've watched him behind average to slightly above average offensive line. Not great. So, I mean, if he struggled against the Citadel to get the ball out, I don't even want to know. what's going to happen when he plays Missouri's schedule next year.
And I mean, if Kiffin couldn't get him to play well, like, do we really think
He's the
what
only
else is?
quarterback that I've ever seen Lane Kiffin put in that could not be consistent. Like he had flashes where he was playing good football, but it would last for about 2 drives, and then it was just over. Or it would just start terrible, and then out of nowhere he would start playing good again. He's the only guy that ever panned out for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. Every single other guy who started at Ole Miss got developed and got drafted, and it's looking like Trinidad's going to be the next guy. So I don't know. I think this is an interesting one. Getting stuck behind Trinidad Chambliss isn't great, but Austin Simmons and Caden Lee going to Missouri will be an interesting tandem. I'm rooting for them, but I don't feel great about Austin Simmons translating. Another Ole Miss guy, Winston Watkins, is heading to LSU. This one was tough, but I knew this guy was leaving like from the get go. I already knew he was going to be gone. I think he was pretty tight. Lane Kiffin recruited him fresh out of high school last year. He was doing a lot of like social media push with Lane Kiffin early. It was a lot of him, and I figured he was pretty tight with Kiffin. A lot of social media stuff saying that too. So knew he was going to leave. He ended up committing pretty quickly after the end of the season. He ended up going for 394, 1 touchdown on 31 catches last year for Ole Miss. His lone touchdown came on a tip drill against the Citadel. So he didn't really find the end zone very much for Ole Miss, but he's quick. I liked him a lot. He had some really big plays against LSU last year, big third down catches. He's a good player, but I just don't know that he's going to be able to fit in with this very, very depth filled wide receiver room for LSU. He really couldn't find a spot with Ole Miss to consistently get on the field. So I don't know how that's going to change at LSU.
Feels like every other receiver we're talking about is going to LSU.
Well, I mean, they spent $40 million on their roster, so at this point, they might have gotten exactly who they wanted at every single spot for wide receiver and more. They probably, I would have to imagine Lane Kiffin just kept spending. He was like, okay, well, we got these 5 wide receivers. What if they don't pan out? What if they get hurt? We want 4 more. 4 more receivers commit. I mean, they're going where the money's going. I don't think that playing time is really the most important thing to some of these guys anymore. It's sad. But
No.
LSU's got an obscene amount of wide receiver talent. If they cannot throw like for at least 250 yards per game this year with this kind of talent, it's not going to be a good look. So after what happened last year, LSU fans, I know they're all expecting like the best offense in college football history to show up on their doorstep next year and rival the 2019 team. But you got to have a lot of things go your way with that kind of turnover. We've seen it happen before where teams like Florida State think that relying on the transfer portal after a lot of success is the way to go, and they flop. Even though they had all the talent, they went heavy on the transfer portal. It just doesn't work out sometimes. But a $40 million roster will do it. So I highly anticipate a lot of these guys for LSU to be very involved, rotational players at wide receiver. I doubt they have a 1,000-yard guy this year. So we'll see what Winston Watkins does for the LSU Tigers next year. Got Horatio Fields, wide receiver from Auburn, heading to Ole Miss. He looks to fill that role probably that Winston Watkins is leaving behind. Is probably a number 4, number 5 guy. Didn't play a lot last year. 12 catches, 106 and a touchdown. He had some decent stats at Wake Forest in 2024, but I don't expect him to be an impact player of any kind. Probably just a depth piece for Ole Miss. So
Yeah, I'm kind of confused. I'm looking at his recruiting profile. He was at 83 rated out of high school, and he really hasn't had like an insane year. I mean, in 2024 he had 460 yards, but the year before that 54. Last year 100. So maybe a guy that's a little bit inflated, but he is going to Ole Miss, so he'll probably find a way for this in some way.
yeah, if he gets on the field, there will be a reason for it for sure. We got a loaded wide receiver room, and got a lot of young guys, got a lot of experienced guys. So if he finds a way on the field, I'd imagine he'll be productive. He's 6'2", 201, solid size. He just didn't really get the touches last year because of the Auburn offense being so horrible. And he sat behind Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, and Malcolm Simmons. So that's a tough group to sit behind. Bless you. I don't know what he's going to do at Ole Miss. I don't have much expectations for him. I say probably death piece, if I had to guess. We'll move on. Noah Rogers, another wide receiver from NC State, had 441 and 2 touchdowns on 33 catches last year. He stands at 6'2", 197. He is heading to Alabama. Alabama ended up losing another NC State guy. I think it was Hollywood Smothers. We talked about that last week. That was a tough drop for them. Getting another NC State guy that looks like he probably will be able to add some proven production in the wide receiver room. Losing Isaiah Horton and Jeremy Bernard, they need it. So I think he'll be solid. He could be an impact player. There's nothing that really jumps off on the tape to me about Noah Rogers. He's solid, but gonna need to see more from him. I think he's probably gonna be a rotational guy to start. Maybe he pops off. A lot to be proven there from him.
Yeah, this dude was a 97 rated out of high school. Spent the 2 years at NC State, who's been kind of up and down the past couple years with their offense. So maybe coming to Bama in a better situation, he could produce more. Just something to watch.
Yeah, with Ryan Williams changing his name though, he may not get any touches. You know,
What did he change his name to? I didn't hear about that.
Ryan Coleman Williams, and he changed his number to number 1. So he's about to go for 2,000 yards, everybody. Just in case you didn't
Hmm.
see that, Ryan Williams is the guy. So he's putting up like 400 yards this year. We'll see how the Alabama wide receiver room shakes out. I think quarterback will be interesting for them too. I'm looking forward to watching that QB battle. Keelan Russell and Austin Mack will be really, really interesting. All right, so believe it or not, we got another wide receiver that committed to LSU. Trey
Uh,
Brown the third from Old Dominion. I like this guy a lot. Played with Colton Joseph last year, and I really think that he could be solid. But he's sitting behind like 8 wide receivers, and I just don't know where he fits in.
he's probably going to be buried.
So here's what gives me some hope with this guy to see the field: 20 yards per catch last year, 4 touchdowns, 762, 38 catches. 20 yards per catch is insane. That's 2 first downs.
Kiffin probably just saw that and said, let's get this dude.
I mean, 6'2", 180, perfect build for a number 1 wide receiver. I just don't know where he fits in, though. He's probably a solid X receiver, but man, I don't know. I bet he's going to get on the field. It's just a matter of can he stay healthy and can he be significantly differential from the other guys on the roster. I don't know. Got a lot of good receivers headed to LSU. If they can't get it figured out, I don't know what's going to happen, but I have high hopes for him. He should have picked a different school, in my opinion, but you end up where you end up when the money flows your way. So Trey Brown heading to LSU, really good pickup. I say probably explosive playmaker for him. He'll come in and get explosive plays for LSU, but I don't see him being 1,000 yard guy and maybe impact player. He's really solid. Going to be an interesting jump from Old Dominion.
Yeah, this is another come up story, too. This guy started at JUCO and now he's getting a bag from LSU.
Yeah, crazy how quick things can change in football. We'll move on to the next guy. We got Cam Vaughn from West Virginia. This guy's one of my most underrated guys. He is headed to Miami. So another guy heading to Miami. What I'm noticing is a very common trend here. Miami and LSU have loaded up on wide receivers. You would think that you only need about 4 or 5 really good wide receivers. And even then, most people only like recruit like 1 to 2 guys out of the portal. Miami and LSU have gotten so many guys. And they already had good receivers. So I don't know where this guy's going to fit in, but he had 35 catches, 541, and 4 touchdowns this year. He had a good season last year. He came from Jacksonville State and went to West Virginia. He's been a great receiver in college football recently. 6'2", 185. The Mountaineers' offense was wretched last year. So for them putting up what he put up last year for them, I think he could do some decent stuff for the Canes. I say probably rotational piece, unfortunately, with the kind of guys he's got to work around. You're not going to get a lot of touches around Cooper Barkate and Malachi Tony. You're just not. So, really solid receiver. Miami with another good pickup here. Loaded wide receiver room. Absolutely loaded.
This is an interesting dude. I'm looking back, I'm looking at his profile. He was unrated at a high school. I'm not seeing anything about offers. It just says he enrolled at Jacksonville State at first.
Could have been a walk on.
Could have been. And in high school, he was a quarterback.
Interesting. That's cool. I love seeing those kinds of stories like we talked about. So I hope he does well at Miami. Could be a really solid guy. Next, we got Malcolm Simmons from Auburn heading to Texas Tech. Big shoes to fill over there. They need wide receiver help badly. They had some guys last year they're going to lose. I highly anticipate this guy to be a big playmaker for Texas Tech. He had 25 catches for 457 and 2 touchdowns, 18 yards per catch. I think he had that one play in the Iron Bowl, like huge touchdown. He had 2. I think both of his touchdowns came in the Iron Bowl actually, from what I remember. I may be wrong, but he had a big game in the Iron Bowl. He's really solid. Texas Tech needs a decent amount of help there. They got Micah Hudson stepping up this year, old 5-star receiver. I think he'll be solid. I think that Texas Tech bringing in a new quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, they're gonna want to be explosive. They're gonna need guys like this to step up. So I think this could be an underrated pickup for the Red Raiders.
Yeah, this dude's a track star in high school, a lot of speed. Should be a fun piece for Texas Tech.
Yeah, I'd have to think that he'll be a down the field threat for sure. I'll be watching him at Texas Tech next year. I like that pickup. And the last guy we got on our list is Aiden Mizell. He is from Florida, headed to UCLA. 19 catches, 177, and a touchdown last year for the Gators in a very up and down offense. He heads to the Bruins as they try to rebuild. New coaching staff, new players. They got Wayne Knight over there. I love that pickup. Aiden Mizell runs really good routes, man. I got to watch him a little bit this year. I watched probably more Florida football than I thought I would with how bad they were. He looks good on tape. And I hate that he didn't get the targets that he probably should have gotten. He's had some more productive seasons, but they're all around the same range of production, not too far off. I think UCLA might have a solid pickup here, a little underrated, good value for this pickup, being this far down the list. I mean, that's reasonable with the production he put up, but I like him. 6'1", 185. He could do some decent things for UCLA. That bottoms out our list. I wanted to mention just one more time that the number one receiver statistically in college football was not in the top 35 guys we had on here, and that just doesn't make sense. 247, once again, your list does not make any sense at all. There's some great players on this list. You got some guys up here that probably should be where they're at. But, I mean, a .98 for Cam Coleman, and he had like 800 yards last year. I know he used to be a 5-star, so that factors in a lot. Then you got Danny Scudero, who led the entire nation in receiving. He's not even up here. I think he was like a .85 maybe.
Golly.
Maybe. I don't even know. It's just, it doesn't make sense. I'd love for that to be explained. We've talked about this the past 2 weeks. We'll continue to talk about it until somebody says something. But I don't love that list. I love the guys on the list. There's a lot of value at these positions in the portal this year. I bet there's going to be some steals. I think there's going to be a lot of underrated guys that pop off this year. I think what did you say? There was like 22 guys in college football that had 1,000 yards last year.
Yeah.
I bet 8 of these guys hit 1,000 yards next year. That's not a lot. So I think we picked up on a lot of underrated players. They're going to good situations. Specifically, I think Arizona State's got 2 guys. They're going to step up big. Oklahoma's got a couple guys. Miami and LSU are the big winners in my eyes on what they pulled in. They've got so much opportunity at those position groups to really make an impact on the field. Quarterback play is going to be the biggest question for those teams, but I think that this is a really solid class. This is obviously the most players that have been in the portal since the portal opened up. So I expected there to be a lot of talent here, but there so far between the position groups we've done, I mean, there's just been so much talent. You got a lot of guys on this list that could probably be wide receiver ones on some smaller teams, and they chose to go be wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 somewhere else. That's all because of the bag, like we talked about. Where the money flows is where they're going. So college football's got a big shakeup at the skill positions this year. I think that's going to impact a lot of games. So we'll be watching that. We're excited for it. You got any key takeaways on this group, Landon, as we close out?
Well, just think about the portal and it growing every year. It's going to be really hard to predict how some of these teams do with all this movement.
Yeah, and what's going to be funny is we don't talk about this a lot, but we play college football 26 enough to where like we're paying attention to player ratings. So with guys transferring, there's going to be a lot of guys like Cam Coleman. I'm sure will be like a 95 in the game next year. He could get like 400 yards or get hurt, whatever. He got an underwhelming season and still be a 95, and he's going to be ridiculously good. You could have a guy like Omarion Miller, who honestly a lot of people don't know that guy, but he's going to go to ASU. I think he's going to be better than he was in Colorado. His ratings should get boosted. There's a lot of guys on this list like Danny Scudero goes to Colorado. He's going to be overshadowed by Marion Miller, and he's probably going to be like an 80. That would be ridiculous, but I pay attention to that stuff. I think that matters. You should get that stuff right if you're going to make a video game like that. So I think it's interesting. There's so much turnover and there's so much target share change with wide receivers. Who knows what the ratings would look like? It's an interesting conversation to have, but lots of overrated guys on this list, lots of underrated guys, lots of impact players. It's fun to talk about them. I think that we've got a pretty good feel for what we're looking at next year with skill positions as we've been doing these lists. We'll be back with tight ends and offensive linemen next week. I would have to imagine we'll do linebackers and safeties, and then we'll get to defensive line and wrap it up. Not too far from being done with these. I want to get into some other content. We're probably going to do a little bit of stuff on the UFL. We're going to be going to a couple games coming up here in a couple weeks. I'm stoked. We love going to Birmingham Stallions games. We're in Mississippi, so it's not a far drive for us.
ready to go to the Brazilian steakhouse.
The Brazilian Steakhouse in Birmingham across from the stadium is so good. If you do not know about it, I forgot what the name is, but just look up
It's
Brazilian
like
Steakhouse in
Texas
Birmingham.
Day, Brazil.
Oh my gosh, dude. They walk up to you with like spits of flaming hot steak. And they're like, "Sir, would you like some of this spicy garlic sirloin?" And you just say yes. And they cut it off, put a big slab on your plate. And then they come back 5 minutes later. "Would you like some of this Euro meat?" And then you slap it on your plate. And then they come by with this giant spit of fillets and chop it on your plate. I probably consumed 300 grams of protein in that sitting last year. Or that's 2 years ago, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go back. It was so good. But just go ahead and know that dessert's not included when you pay for the get-in price. It's basically a buffet style. They just serve it to you. So dessert's not included. You'll spend $100.
Oh,
Just
easily if you start doing that.
it's an experience. It's worth it. But if you want dessert, just go to an ice cream place afterward. It's not worth $20 for dessert. So I'm excited for that. We'll talk about the UFL more. I'm a huge Ole Miss homer, so we'll be talking about Matt Corral and Snoop Connor a little bit. They are on the Birmingham Stallions. We're gonna go watch them play. We'll have more to talk about. That'll wrap up episode 31 for the Feel for the Game podcast.